Ever since the earliest days of Rust development, raiding has been the end goal of all wipes, with hopes that your raid will lead to good loot. But how do I raid well, you might ask? Well, you've come to the right place, as in this video we're going to be taking a look at how to raid well and much more. Before we start, I'll tell you a bit more about the structure of this video. First, I'll show you the health of all building blocks and talk about the weak sides. And then I'll show you all the basics about the raiding tools. Next, I'll be covering wood stuff, so wooden doors, walls, and floors. Next, I'll be covering all doors, double doors, and ladder hatches. After that, I'll cover stone stuff, then sheet metal stuff. Next, I'll cover armored stuff in case you need to know how to raid them. Finally, I'll cover taking down auto turrets. On screen now you can see the health of all walls. For every pair of walls, the wall on the right is the weak side and the wall on the left is the strong side. Now you can see all doors on screen with their health values. And now you can see all double doors with their respective health values. Finally, here's the ladder hatch. That is neither a door nor a double door, so here it is in all its glory with 250 health. Now let's talk about weak sides. Weak sides are much easier to destroy, but this doesn't really matter above metal, and is only valid for melee attacks, so explosives deal the same damage on both sides. All walls have weak sides on screen now, and all floors have a weak side underneath. Now let's cover which type of explosives can do splash damage and which can't. First up is the bean can, which by default does splash damage if thrown with your left click, but if you attach it to something with your right click, then it only damages the object it's attached to. Next up we have the satchel charge, which deals splash damage to items inside a room, but only to the one building block it's attached to. Next up is explosive ammo. It does deal splash damage, but you need to fire it close to the edge of another building block for it to do so. Next up we have the rocket, which deals splash damage to other building blocks in quite a large radius. And finally we have the C4, which only damages the building block it's attached to and the items inside that room. So let's get started with wooden stuff. First, let's talk about the wooden door, which is the most common early game door. As it is early game stuff, destroying it is quite easy. You can destroy it with 4 bean cans, which costs 720 sulfur. You can destroy it with a flamethrower, which costs around 100 low-grade fuel. You can also destroy it with one incendiary rocket if you happen to have one lying around. You can destroy it with 45 handmade shells fired from any shotgun, which costs 225 sulfur, so this is the most efficient sulfur-based raiding method for destroying wooden doors. And the best non-sulfur-based raiding method is destroying it with 10 salvage swords, as this only costs 150 metal fragments and 10 metal blades. Next up is the wooden wall, which just like the wooden door is not that hard to destroy. You can destroy it with a flamethrower, which costs 270 low-grade fuel. You can destroy it with 13 bean cans, which costs 1560 sulfur. You can also destroy it with 3 satchel charges, which costs 1440 sulfur. You can also destroy it with 93 handmade shells fired from any shotgun, which costs a total of 465 sulfur, making it the most efficient sulfur-based raiding method for destroying wooden walls. Just like the wooden door, a wooden wall can also be destroyed by one incendiary rocket, if you have one lying around. If you're on the weak side of the wall, then you can destroy it with one salvage sword, which costs 15 metal fragments and 1 metal blade. Now let's see how to take down wooden floors. I'm not going to repeat myself, as a wooden floor can be taken down the same way as a wooden wall, but I'm going to show you how to take down wooden floors from the weak side. As the underside of the floor is the weak side, taking it down should be easy. Here you can see the debug view of the underside of a wooden floor, and you can clearly see where these two beams meet. That's where you have to hit it, directly in the middle. And like this, you can take it down with one salvage sword, which costs 15 metal fragments and 1 metal blade. Finally, in this category, let's talk about wooden foundations. Common sense would dictate that just like wooden floors, they would also have their weak side on the bottom, but no, it is actually on top. So if you're on the top side of a wooden foundation, you can easily destroy it with one salvage sword. Now let's move on to taking down doors. After this, I won't be covering taking down double doors separately, only garage doors, as they take the same amount of damage. Now let's get started with sheet metal doors. You can take them down with 4 satchels, or 2 rockets, or 1 C4, or 63 explosive ammo. The most efficient option out of these is the 63 explosive ammo, which only costs 1575 sulfur. Next up, we have the armored door, which is the toughest of all doors. It can be taken down with 2 C4, 4 rockets, 12 satchels, or 200 explosive ammo. The most efficient option out of these are the 2 C4, which only costs 4,400 sulfur. Finally, we have the garage door. It can be destroyed with 2 C4, 3 rockets, 9 satchel charges, or 150 explosive ammo. The most efficient method out of these is 150 explosive ammo, which only costs 3,550 sulfur and can deal splash damage to nearby building blocks. Now let's move on to ladder hatches. It can be destroyed with 1 C4, 4 satchel charges, 2 rockets, or 63 explosive ammo. The most cost-effective option out of these is the 63 explosive ammo, as it only costs 1,575 sulfur and it deals splash damage to nearby building blocks. Now let's move on to stone building blocks. First, let's talk about stone walls, as these are the most common walls you'll come across inside Rust, as most bases have these for protection. The strong side isn't that easy to break. It can be destroyed with 2 C4, which costs 4,400 sulfur. It can also be destroyed with 10 satchels, which costs 4,800 sulfur. You can also destroy 4 adjacent stone walls with 4 rockets if you fire them right in the center, which costs 5,600 sulfur. And you can also destroy them with 182 explosive ammo, which costs 4,550 sulfur. You can also destroy multiple walls at the same time with explosive ammo due to its splash damage. The weak side is way easier though. You can destroy it with 7 pickaxes, which cost 700 wood and 875 metal fragments. You can also destroy it with 23 spears, which cost 6,900 wood. And if the wall is next to a workbench, you can destroy it easily with a jackhammer and refill it at the workbench every time it breaks. This is by far the fastest way to pick through. It costs the same amount of raiding tools to destroy stone floors, both from the strong and the weak side. Now let's move on to sheet metal building blocks. These are twice as strong as stone, and just like stone walls, they are quite common in bases. As these have twice the health of stone, destroying them is twice as hard. The strong side is pretty hard to break. It can be destroyed with 4 C4, which costs 8,800 sulfur, which is the cheapest way to do so. It can also be destroyed with 8 rockets, which costs 11,200 sulfur. With this method having one big advantage over C4, it deals splash damage to other nearby walls. The weak side is significantly easier to get through. It can be destroyed with 35 pickaxes, which costs 4,375 metal fragments and 3,500 wood. Unlike the stone wall, I don't think you should try breaking this with a jackhammer, as by the end you'll have to repair the jackhammer every hit. It costs the same amount of raiding tools to destroy sheet metal floors both from the strong and the weak side. Now let's talk about taking down armored building blocks. Fortunately for you, you won't have to do this very often, as armored building blocks are expensive, and people would rather spend their high quality metal on weapons. These are really hard to take down, as they are 4 times as strong as stone. You can destroy them with 8 C4, which costs 17,600 sulfur. And you can also destroy them with 15 rockets, which cost 21,000 sulfur, but unlike C4, deals splash damage to nearby building blocks. Picking through the weak side of these is really hard work, and should not be attempted unless you're in a large clan. It costs the same amount of raiding tools to destroy armored floors. Now let's cover how to take down auto turrets. They can be destroyed easily with 2 incendiary rockets if you have them lying around, and they can also be destroyed by 2 satchels, which costs 960 sulfur. Finally, let's cover high external walls. A high external wood wall can be destroyed with 2 C4 or 3 rockets. And a high external stone wall can be destroyed with 2 C4 or 4 rockets. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to help me reach 1.5k by the end of 2019. I would like to thank Gucciberg and Dimitri for being my patrons. If you really enjoy my content and would like me to shout you out at the end of my videos, you can become one of my patrons on patreon.com/TheMeemishGamer. And thank you guys so much for 1,300 subscribers.